tonight's the night. And welcome to my next Dexter Resurrection Season 1 episode review video, which I was able to watch the episode early on the YouTube Paramount Plus channel. Before I get into that, though, pretty important. If you haven't watched the original 96 episodes of Dexter, the 10 episodes of Dexter New Blood, the first 10 minutes-ish of Dexter Original Sin, and of course these first 7 episodes of Dexter Resurrection, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this detailed review any further to avoid any potential spoilers. To all the new people finding this channel out for the first time, welcome to the channel. I'm a Dexter fanatic just like you, but we have lots of Dexter fanatics on this channel. Join us all in the comments section to discuss this episode of Dexter Resurrection. I'll, of course, be there. The legendary Crazy Kaufman will be there. T. Parker Evans will be there. Brad Hawk Talk will be there. Vinny Lima will be there. And Rusty Reels will also be there to talk about Dexter Resurrection. And, of course, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. With all that said, this will be Dexter Resurrection, Season 1, Episode 7. The title of this episode is called Course Correction, and this will be my review reaction recap after just finishing watching the episode. The helicopter has arrived at the castle. Dexter says Gareth won't stay dead, looking at Gareth number 2. Prader tells Charlie to do what he fucking tells her to do. Al, aka Rapunzel, can't believe that he's at a castle with a billionaire. He asks Prader about Lowell, and Prader tells Al that he doesn't have time for his bullshit. And then Prader breaks the news to the gang that Mia took her own life in jail. And Al is very upset by this news that Mia's gone. And all the killers in Prader have a toast to Lady Vengeance. Charlie is not in this. Elsa tells Harrison that her landlord, Vinny, isn't returning her calls and texts. And Harrison tells Elsa that him and his dad are cool now. Prader has food for everyone, including vegan stuff for Red. And then Dexter tells Prader that he wasn't always a vegan and decides that, you know what, I'm hungry by all this stuff. I want to eat regular food. I don't know if he should have necessarily did that or not. Al's turn for show and tell. He's videotaped his kill. He's riding his bike on a trail, and then he fakes falling down, and then this female goes over to help him, and then he's able to strangle her and kill her, and then he cuts off her ponytail, and Dexter says they all have to die. Harry tells Dexter he knew this was a bad idea. He mentions we worked so hard together to turn your urges into something right, as Dexter's getting ready for his show and tell as Red. And then Dexter grabs Harry. That's why you killed yourself, when you saw it with your own eyes. And Harry says he was scared. He blames himself for Dexter's suffering, but says Dexter has a higher purpose. Red was an animal, and you shouldn't pretend to be him. Dexter tells the group only a few select people get to see the Dark Passenger, and then they die. And he tells Al if his family ever saw his darkness, they turn you in. And he says basically this whole Dark Passenger thing is a facade that he does, and that he shows him like he's the real person, not the Dark Passenger, and all this stuff. And then then he actually mimics being a puppet in front of Prader, Charlie, Al, and Gareth. And then we have Detective Oliva tell Agent Batista not to mess with Detective Wallace. She's a numbers ninja. Angel says that none of this adds up. The security camera went down in Mia's cell block, really, at that time. And then she says something about, well, there's other issues with security cameras at that time as well. And then he asks Claudette if she ever trusts her gut. And then he slams a picture of Dexter Morgan on her desk and says that this guy is smart. He's escaped justice for decades. Oliva says, do you think this guy really snuck into her cell, killed her, and dipped out before we could get there? And then Angel counters with their theory doesn't line up either. And then Claudette says there's variations to the Lady Vengeance murders. She mentions Mia's prints are on all the trophies except the watch. Angel wants access to DMV records. And then we have Al, who's got an upset tummy. He wants to know if anyone has anything for it. And Dexter says, kill you. Dump your body in the bay. Gareth says he's a rare bird. He says he keeps asking himself what is different as him and Dexter are talking to each other. And Charlie tells Dexter that Mr. Prader would like to see him. Actually, I jumped ahead a bit. They're not talking to each other by themselves yet. So Dexter goes over to talk to Leon Prader, and Leon tells Dexter his show and tell was spectacular. And then Prader talks about how he wrote a letter to the man that killed his parents, Cooper Morris. He put all of his pain into a letter. That son of a bitch wrote back, and he had no remorse. He demanded to meet him face to face. He'll never forget sitting in the back seat watching his parents die. This is Leon Prader, of course. Dexter says we all have trauma that we can't escape. And then we have Dexter have different flashes to different events. Dexter taking Harrison out of the bathroom. Dexter getting shot by Harrison. Dexter killing Hector Estrada. And then Prader says he actually befriended Cooper Morris. He was his only visitor during his incarceration. Then he confessed to me. He's killed before. First serial killer that ever shared their story with me. He started to enjoy their visits. Cooper didn't even make it till his 50th birthday, unfortunately. And Dexter's honesty was appreciated by Prader. He shows Dexter Cooper's first letter that he wrote to Leon Prader. And Prader says, the truth is never boring, and you never know what it may spark in someone. And then we have Angel showing up at Blessing's place, well, Blessing / Dexter's place. He tells Blessing he's an old friend from Miami, and he tells Angel Dexter practically, or Blessing tells Angel Dexter's practically like family to them. And then Blessing says Harrison's going through a rough time right now. Then we have Dexter goes to chat with Gareth. Now I can finally talk about that. I jumped ahead a little bit. The Gemini killer. He says he knows his secret. You're a twin. Gareth says that that's the stupidest fucking thing he's heard. And Dexter makes a comment by, you set those bodies up. You're kind of weak. You don't go to the gym. That's how you do it. And then Gareth says, stop talking right now before you say something you regret. And then Gareth finally admits it and says that he mentions something that Leon Prader doesn't even know. At least we don't think he does. And Dexter says, what you and your brother have done is genius. And Gareth says we created the Gemini killer together. And he says that Dexter's the first one to figure out their secret. And Dexter tells Gareth he had a brother. And then we have a quick flash to Brian Moser. And then they talk about that for a bit. And the unfortunate thing is we found each other in our 30s. And then Gareth mentions that we are never seen together, like they had rules. And Dexter mentions following them to the library and all that. And Gareth looks surprised. And then Dexter says that he stabbed his brother in the chest. Like, I stabbed your brother last night in the chest. Did you feel that? And he has his own thing, killing killers. Dexter makes it look like that he's defending himself against Gareth, the Gemini killer, and he kills him because everybody else is watching from afar as you see Gareth with the broken wine glass and going after Dexter, and then Dexter overpowers him and kills him. And then Dexter says Gemini was the one that killed Lowell. He was talking all this crazy stuff, how he was going to take him out and Al out as well, Rapunzel. And then Prader tells Charlie to put her gun away because she's got her gun drawn. And then Al mentions he doesn't like blood. That's why he strangles people. And then Charlie mentions Gemini kills in pairs, and now he's killing people one by one. Doesn't add up. Prader tells Dexter Charlie will take care of his cut. Then we have Harrison reading a financial aid brochure. He speaks to Gigi Jones. Even jokes with her, saying his mom was murdered and he killed his dad because she was joking with him about something to do with a wrist injury that she has. Prader tells Dexter that this wasn't the retreat I hoped it would be when he drops him off, and mentions a final meal he wants Dexter to attend, or Red to attend. Dexter says he wouldn't miss it. Gigi tells the group they get to audit a forensic psychology class, and then Harrison goes in and sees Detective Claudette Wallace in there. She's going over slides from the New York Ripper, and then we have Dexter walk in, and Claudette kind of stops and eyes Dexter, and then Dexter sits next to Harrison. And then Claudette plays a message the New York Ripper left for somebody close to one of his victims, and it does sound a little bit, if you slow it down, like Jonah Mitchell. I don't know if that theory is actually going to be true, but it's weird that they played the voice unless the killer is using like a voice changer type thing, which might be the case. I still think it's probably Oliva, but who knows. But Dexter tells Harrison the way he feels about him is different than anybody else in the world, and Harrison's like, thank you for that. And then they go to leave this class, and then Claudette says, "Mr. Morgan." And then Harrison tells Claudette he's thinking about becoming a cop. And then Claudette tells Dexter she's talked with Angel Batista. And Dexter mentions to Claudette the blood splatter looks like a longer object, maybe something with a hook. Harrison talks to Gigi again. She's like, "Can you take a hint here?" And then he finally asks for her phone number. I like Gigi's character. Didn't even know she was coming on the show. She seems really cool at first, but what happens to Elsa? I sense somebody's going to die, although maybe we'll have a love triangle in Season 2 of Dexter Resurrection. And then to Harrison, Dexter just kind of downplays Angel Batista talking to Wallace and Oliva. And then Dexter gets home and he has some pieces of glass with Gareth, the Gemini killer's blood, in his pocket, and he makes a blood slide of Gareth. And then he hears some like Miami music and he's like, "Batista!" And then he goes up to the upstairs part, and sure enough, Angel Batista's there dancing with Blessing. And Batista says, "Surprise, hermano." And Dexter gives Angel Batista a hug, and then Angel Batista mentions, "Won your car ride? Friends, a place to stay." But then again, you always had a knack for winning people over. And then Blessing's wife mentions that you should have told us you work for the police. And Dexter mentions to Angel, "It's late, let me give you a ride to the place that you're staying at." And then in the car, Dexter tells Angel, "I'm only going to say this once. Stay away from me, my house, my family, and especially my son." And Angel says, "You think I'm just going to let you get away with what you did to Maria, Dokes, and Deb?" All people that Dexter did not kill, by the way. And Dexter says, "You don't want to get into this." He mentions, "If I really am who you think I am, this possibly can't end up well for you." And then Angel says, "I'll take my chances, buddy." And then Angel gets out of the car. And simultaneously, Dexter says, "This is where you get out." And then we see that Angel Batista has put an AirPod into Dexter's car, and he's tracking it on his phone. And that's what ends this episode of Dexter Resurrection. I loved this episode. This show is phenomenal. This episode was good. Even though it didn't have any cameos from people that I really like. I mean, it had some scenes of old characters, but it was archived footage. I really liked this episode. I'm going to give this episode a 10 out of 10. Michael C. Hall was brilliant in this episode. Obviously, he's the character of every episode, but I have to pick somebody else. I'm going to pick Leon Prader. I really like how fascinated he was with, Red's performance. And then Angel Batista. It kind of reminded me of Hank and Walt in Breaking Bad once Hank realized that Walt was Heisenberg. So, awesome episode. Really liked it. So you've heard everything that I have to say. Now it's your turn. If you're a fan of Dexter, Dexter New Blood, Dexter Original Sin, and of course Dexter Resurrection, and want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, please make sure that you Hulk smash that like button. Otherwise, I'm going to have to put you on my table and wrap you up in plastic. Share the video with a friend. Put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about what your thoughts are on this episode of Dexter Resurrection. Remember, I'll be there. The legendary Crazy Coffee Man will be there. Vinny Leamy will be there. Brad Hawk Talk will be there. T. Parker Evans will be there. And, of course, Rusty Reels will also be there. Let us know your thoughts and anything else that you have to say, as well as any predictions that you have for future episodes of Dexter Resurrection. I will be doing a predictions video for the finale. I might have to do one sooner because I want to predict who the New York Ripper is, because that voice, if you slow it down, to me it sounds a little like Jonah Mitchell, but I don't think that's really the case. Who knows? And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button. You're watching the video anyway. Subscribe to the channel. Help me get over 100,000 subscribers. Instead of saying subscribe to the channel, subscribe, motherfucker. Join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And you never know what you're going to see on JDF TV.